Hey everyone, these are notes for 5G, which will be introducing you to graphing and writing inequalities. So this paper that you have should look like this, should have two sides, and it's a trifold. So we're going to fold this right side in to about halfway there, and then the left side in over the top of that. And this is the starting page here. And then I'm going to label this 5G. So you've dealt with inequalities before. You know that this is a less than symbol. And you know that we could write things like 5 is less than 7. Then we've got a greater than symbol. And so we could also write then 7 is greater than 5. Now this symbol is less than or equal to. So it's less than or equal to. And you remember that the bigger side, the kind of alligator mouth there, goes towards the larger number. So we could write that 5 is less than or equal to 7, or we could write that 5 is less than or equal to 5, because these two are equal. This little equal sign that we add on to the underneath of the less than sign means that that's okay. We couldn't put that up here. We couldn't say that 5 is less than 5 in this top one, but we can down here because we've got the equal sign. All right, and then obviously this one will be greater than or equal to. So we could write that 7 is greater than or equal to 5 because it's greater than 5. Or we could write that 7 is greater than or equal to 7 because 7 and 7 are both equal. And that, again, little half an equal sign down there allows us to use that number. All right, so we're going to flip in then to the middle page here, and we're going to write two inequalities using the two numbers that we have there. So we could write that 3 is less than 9, or we could write that 9 is greater than 3. Again, noticing that the larger part of this, what I like to call an alligator mouth, is always pointing towards the larger value. So we've got 15 is less than 16, or we could write 16 is greater than 15. Those two inequalities say the same thing. All right, so down here, we're going to write an inequality that has the same meaning as the one that's given. So A is greater than 15 is the same as 15 is less than A. Again, notice that the inequality is still oriented the same way. The narrower part is facing 15 up here, and the narrower part is facing 15 down here. We had to flip the inequality. All right, and so here we could say that this is 5 is less than or equal to B, or this could be B is greater than or equal to 5. So flipping the inequality, keeping the numbers oriented to the same side of the inequality as it is in the original problem. This is going to be handy when we graph these. We'll want to be able to do this. All right, so down here we've got C is greater than or equal to 20, and so we'll flip that around. 20 is less than or equal to C. So those mean the same thing, these mean the same thing, and these mean the same thing. All right, let's look over here at the first part of our trifold. We're going to graph these inequalities, which means we're just going to plot them on a number line. And so we need to be able to differentiate between the symbols is less than or equal to and is greater than or equal to, and then just less than or greater than. We've got to be able to differentiate between those two when our inequalities are on a number line. And so in order to do that, we use a closed circle on our number line when we're dealing with the greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Our circle gets filled in. And I like to think of it this way. We have to do a little extra work to make this symbol, so we do a little extra work to show its graph as well. And then these will be open circles on our number line. All right, so when we graph these inequalities, we want to follow these steps. We want to get the variable on the left side, and we'll see why that's going to be a good idea here in just a minute. We want to make a number line and plot the number that's in our inequality on an open or closed circle. And I'll give you some examples of these in just a sec. And then we want to draw an arrow. Now, if you've got your variable on the left-hand side, the arrow is going to go the same direction that your inequality is pointing. So that's why it's always a real nice idea to have your variable on the left-hand side. So here's an example. We're going to graph x is greater than 14. Sorry. So we need this number 14 on there because that's where we're comparing. We're comparing the rest of what we're graphing to that 14. So I need to just put some numbers on here so that 14 is on. So I'm going to go 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This symbol is a greater than symbol, which means we'll have an open circle at 14. So open circle at 14. And we want all of the numbers that are greater than 14. And so we're going to draw a line that shows the numbers greater than 14. So those will be 15, 16, and so on. So to graph this inequality, we graph it that way. Again, notice that the line goes the same way that the inequality points as long as we have the variable on the left side. If we don't have the variable on the left side, it would be reverse. So let's see if this works. Is 15 greater than 14? It is. Is 16 greater than 14? It is. Now if we'd gone the other way, is 13 greater than 14? Not at all, right? So we know we've got the right one. Open dot, because we don't have the little half and equal sign under here, and then showing all the numbers that would be greater than 14. So there's an infinite number of possibilities for this x, because everything that's greater than 14 would fit here. 14 itself doesn't, however, and that's why it's an open dot, because it's not part of that solution. All right, our next one is 24 is less than or equal to x. Now, with this one, we don't have the variable on the left-hand side, so we want to get that in that form, just so our graphing is easier. So I'm going to change my x to the left side. I'm going to flip my inequality so that the bigger part is still pointing towards the x, and then I put my number on the other side. So we need to have 24 down here. That's the magic number. Everything is going to be compared to that. So I'll do 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Now I'm going to have a closed dot for this graph because I've got the greater than or equal to, so that means that 24 would be part of the solution. And since I've got my variable on the left-hand side, I know that my arrow is going to have to point the way the inequality is pointing, but we'll check that just to make sure it's right. Is 25 greater than 24? It is. 26 greater than 24? It is. And again, we've filled in the dot above 24 because 24 would also work. 24 is greater than or equal to 24. All right, let's go ahead and have you try the next two and then tune into the next video.